Hello, CCS families. My name's Daniel Kaufman, and I teach in the secondary. And this is going to be a tutorial on how to use Google Classroom. I got a few requests from both parents and students, actually, on just a little bit of help on how to use it, particularly at home. So I wanted to make this little how-to video and hopefully improve your understanding of how the program works, so that you can help your student use it at home in the future. So in order for your student to access their Google account, and quite frankly, you could do this too without them there if you wanted, it's basically as simple as just going to google.com on any device. This works on phones, tablets, desktops, laptops, doesn't really matter, and signing in with their account. Now, most of Google's educational programs that we use, such as Classroom, work best in the Chrome browser. But if you don't have that and don't feel like downloading it, you can use other browsers. They should, for the most part, be able to function without Chrome. Anyways, to get to Google Classroom with your students, your child's account, you get to Google here. In the top right-hand corner, you'll see a blue button, hopefully, that says Sign In. And unless there's a portrait there, that means someone else is signed in. You need to sign them out. And then it's as simple as signing in with your child's account. All of the students, their accounts are pretty easy to remember because their username is just their first name, last name at ccsnd.org. For the teachers, it's a little different. It's just our first initial, our last name, and then at ccsnd.org. That's also the same as our email address. And the same for the students as well. Their email address is just their first name, last name at ccsnd.org. And so that's pretty easy to remember. And then they'll, of course, each of them have their own unique password, which they can tell you. And so I'm going to go ahead and log myself in. And now we are signed in to our Google educational account. And there's many different ways to get to Classroom or Gmail or whatever. You can type it in the address bar if you want. Most Google programs are the name of the application, .google.com. So for instance, Classroom is classroom.google.com, just like Gmail is mail.google.com, etc., etc. Or you can just Google it, and you just type Google Classroom here, or even here in the Google Apps Manager near the sign-in button, you can get just a list of all the icons for various Google applications, and here's Classroom right here. So we're going to go ahead and go there. Now, when your student is logged in, when you get to this page, the Google Classroom main page, you should see all the classes that they are currently enrolled in. And so right now we're looking at my classes that I teach, and it's just as simple as then going into the class that we want to look at. So I will use my 11th grade U.S. history class to demonstrate what Google Classroom looks like. Essentially, Classroom, for those of you that don't know, is like it's a hub program. It's almost organized like a little bit like a social media platform like Facebook. Not really. It's more like Blackboard or something like that if you're familiar with online learning management systems. But it's very simple. It's very easy to use. I find it to be very helpful in the classroom. I started using it, well, as soon as we got Chromebooks 2 years ago, and then jumped into it kind of head first last year, and now it's a daily part of my classroom. And what this allows me to do as the teacher is distribute information and assignments and documents to the students in an easy way. I also post, for me at least, all of my normal homework assignments and tests, actually, like when the tests are going to be on Google Classroom. I started doing this because students gave me feedback that checking RenWeb is not always the most intuitive experience. And they found it to be tedious to figure out what homework they had and when it was due. And so I wanted to come up with something that was easier to look at. And so thus I started using Google Classroom quite a bit. Now on the main page, what you see is like a big, what they call a stream. It's just a big feed of all the things that the instructor posts, just kind of in the order that they posted it. However, like in my classes, I also tag all of the assignments by what chapter they belong to. So your student will also, at least in my classes, see on the left-hand side under topics all the different chapters that we've done so far. And if they wanted to look at just the chapter they were on, or maybe they want to go back and look at a previous chapter for some reason, they can actually click on one of these topics and see only the assignments or posts or whatever it is that were tagged with just that topic. So it's quite useful. The real meat of the reason why I started using this, though, is that Google Classroom, whenever a student enrolls in it, it will generate a Google Calendar for each of them that they can view. And now they could go to Google Calendar directly, calendar.google.com, or just use the app thing to, it's in there somewhere, I'm sure, to go to their calendar. There it is. But there's also a button on the Google Classroom homepage here called Classroom Calendar, where it will, instead of taking them to the big Google Calendar where they'll see all their classes or whatever their calendars are, they can get just a nice, simplified view of what it is that they have assigned in that class for that week. So the day that the assignments appear are the day that they are due, according to what the teacher has done when they made that assignment. I also use it to mark when tests are. Although I still do my tests on paper, I put it in Google Classroom anyway so that it will appear on their calendars. But a student could just as easily go to their classroom, their Google Calendar, which will show, well, all kinds of stuff. It'll show all their calendars kind of at once. In an ideal world, all of their teachers would be using this, and they would be able to see all of their assignments kind of at a glance right here, although it could get messy. That's not currently a reality just yet. But that's how it would work. So right now, my students usually just use the Classroom Calendar to see what their assignments are each week. And so I usually have them look at it on Monday for a new week. But, I mean, they can view it anytime, anywhere they are, as long as they have access to the internet. And like I said, if I have your child in one of my classes, I sent out videos before school started about the fact that there is a Google Classroom app that you can put on your phone or tablet that does all this stuff more easily on a mobile device. There's just one more thing I wanted to show you, and that is Google now does offer a feature that allows you as the parent to get kind of a view as to what's going on in the classroom. You cannot personally access a classroom unless you're using your child's CCS Indy account, which that's between you and your child, I guess. But if you would like, and you have a child in one of my classes at least, and I'm sure any of the teachers who use this would be fine with it, you can become a guardian for your student. If you, for instance, give me an email address that you want to have attached to it, I copy and paste your email address into here, and then it sends you an invitation to become your child's guardian for that class. And from what I understand, because I haven't used it much yet, I think it's a fairly recent feature, the Classroom will then keep you updated with what assignments are posted. I think it will also let you see the Classroom Calendar, and it will notify you if your student fails to turn in an assignment. So for instance, when I make an assignment in, let's see, okay, like I have this project here for my juniors, and it's due September 4th. So when I initially made the assignment, I gave it a due date, tagged it with a chapter. It lets me also attach documents that the students would need for the project and so forth and so on. And so if the date passes, and I can even actually make it due at a specific, even a specific time of day, which I do for some of my regular homework assignments, it will notify you that your child didn't turn it in, which could be annoying if your child is still doing their homework on paper, which I allow, because they would maybe not go in and turn it in online because they did it on paper. But it'll still send you a notification though. So, but it's actually not that hard for your student just to turn it in even without turning in anything, and then they won't get a notification. So that's what it looks like from my perspective. And then I would also like to stop and then show you what the Google Classroom experience will look like from your student's perspective. So let me switch accounts and we'll be right back. All right, now we're back in, except now we are logged in as a student under a dummy account. And so now we're looking at the same classroom from that perspective. So for your child, most of it looks the same, except now when they're looking at assignments that are due, it will tell them that they can turn in something. If it's something that's past due, it will tell them that they're missing. So I'm missing a lot of assignments here because I just joined the class. But for instance, if I wanted to work on this project that was assigned by Mr. Kaufman, I can hit the open button. And the open button will show them what documents the teacher has given them, and then there's a turn-in button. And so the student from here, they can, so in this case, this is a case where a student is expected to upload a document to Google Classroom to turn it in. And they can choose from a file that's already on their computer. So say they did their project in Microsoft PowerPoint. In this case, it's a presentation project, so that's a possibility. They could just click File and find the document on their computer. Maybe this is at home, for instance, or on a computer in the computer lab at school. And they can turn it in there, or it can be something that's on their Google Drive. Or they can actually, when they're getting started with the project, hit the Create button and then just create a new document that's specifically meant for this project and start working on it right away. And then when they're done, they just hit Turn In. And so we'll go ahead and do that. It's telling me that I haven't done anything yet, and that's okay. And we will turn it in. And so now, if we go back to our main page, it says I have turned this document in. And this is pretty useful because if it's a paper, I know Mrs. Ashley and I believe Mrs. Fry do this. Say it's an English paper. When the student turns in the paper, it actually transfers ownership of the document from the student to the teacher. And we as the teachers actually get a special view of the document that Google made where we can make comments, suggestions, even like cross out things digitally and give them feedback on the paper. And then there's a return button we can click where the document is then sent back to the student and they are given ownership of it so they can edit it again. And they're notified that they're given it back, and then they can see all of the feedback that their teacher gave them. And so this is pretty common, a common feature that I use where a student has a homework assignment and say it's a history class where there are questions in the book. They can read the book and then create a doc, type in their answers, turn it in, and it's all done. Although I also allow my students to turn in their homework on paper, but the student also gets the classroom calendar that they can see. There's even some more buttons here that just says like your work. So it's all this like all of their things for this class in a snapshot here of what they've turned in and what they haven't. There is a way to get grades in Google Classroom. I don't put grades on their assignments in Google Classroom because that's what RenWeb is for. So that's where their final grades go. But a teacher could use that. And then another neat feature, screen's going black, it'll come back. There we go. Another neat feature of Classroom is that for the teacher and the student, everything that we do on it automatically gets copied. Well, really, it's where it's being stored in the first place in Google Drive. So if I had done stuff, there would be folders here with all of my work that I've done the whole year stored on Google Drive for me to reference for whenever I need it. And I think that about does it for my tutorial on how to use Google Classroom. And I hope it was helpful for you. And if you still have any questions, feel free to send me an email. My school email address is dkaufman@ccsindy.org, and I would be happy to help you out. All right. Thank you.